Good morning. Welcome to AUSA. My name is Alex Brody, and it's great to be back in person for these events again. Extremely excited to introduce General Funk today as our keynote speaker. Who here is a member of AUSA? Thank you. We appreciate your support. If you're not a member, please look up at the camera. Smile if you don't mind. We'll review the tapes later and ask you to become a member. In all seriousness, if you are a member or if you're not a member, please stop by our membership booth out in the foyer, speak with Angela, and she'll review all the great benefits of being a member of AUSA. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our president and CEO of the Association of the United States Army. Please put your hands together for General Bob Brown.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. Boy, it's great to be back together. Standing room only back there. Fantastic. Unbelievable. Welcome to all our distinguished guests. It's great to see so many leaders here from across the Army. And it doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. It's great to see our industry partners here. We have community partners here, but it doesn't surprise me because of who we have this morning. A real inspirational leader. When you look at Paul Funk's background, and you just go, my gosh, what a perfect guy for this critical job. You know, his commands at every level have been just so incredible. I go back, I look, and I was like, my gosh, 1st Brigade, 1st Cav, tremendous unit. This unit, then Division Command, as I remember, I got to do the change of command as well when I was 1st Corps, but commanding 1st Infantry Division. That's some of you have heard of that division.
Yeah.
Some former commanders here. Carter, him, and others, and an amazing unit. And then 3 Corps. I mean, holy smokes, is there a more famous unit? And then experience across from Desert Shield, Desert Storm to multiple deployments, Iraq and Afghanistan, and across the breadth and depth of the Army, his experience. You know, Paul just, as I said, inspirational leader. And so we're really excited. In one of the key jobs in the Army, Training and Doctrine Command, CG, the 17th CG of TRADOC. And when you look, you know, TRADOC, it's pretty amazing. They recruit the Army, you know, just about 100,000 a year, no small task. They train and educate 500,000 every year. And that's not just soldiers, by the way. Most people think it's just soldiers. It's also Marines, Airmen, Navy.
Even civilians,
professional civilians and others, and absolutely incredible. And when you look the responsibilities, figure out the doctrine. We're still, as you look to the future and you're trying to, what's this world going to look like? And my gosh, does it change more rapidly now than ever? Look at as we're going through with Ukraine and Russia and watching that, and every day learning lessons. How do you capture that? Put that into ensure that we're ready for the future fight. Do all of that. And then, oh, by the way, 32 schools under the Army University system and 8 centers of excellence. A lot of responsibility. Unbelievable. But we're just really thrilled to have Paul here. And we'll get to, I'll start off with some questions, and I would just please join us with, and make sure Paul said he wanted tough questions.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't want any easy softballs. He wants a tough question.
That's so I can give them to Donna Martin.
No doubt. Now, we could not do this without the great support of our national partners and industry, and want to thank Leidos and Lieutenant General retired Mitch Stevenson is here representing Leidos. They've been since 1978 a national partner. Absolutely unbelievable. Great company. Thanks, Mitch, so much for enabling us. This allows us to do this forum and really educate, inform, and connect. Which is so key with critical leaders. So let me, Paul, let me turn it over to you.
Okay.
Start off with some remarks, and then I'll start with a few questions, and then again, Alex will walk around with a microphone, and don't be shy. Great opportunity to really see in such a key position where we're going and what the challenges are.
So thanks, Mr. President. I really appreciate it. More importantly, thanks to everybody for coming out today. My name is Funk, and I am an American soldier. And I think across the globe these days, that means a lot to a lot of different people. And so at this point and in this juncture, I think if we look back into our country, what do we have to do? You opened this up with We got to recruit the next generation of the next greatest generation, right? We need these folks to serve. Right now, we got some challenges there. So I'll give you some statistics here, just throw out some numbers that I want everybody to kind of take on and think about. So today in our country, 83% of the youth that are joining now the Army, 83% have a relative who has served in one of the services. That sounds great until you realize that some of us have been 5, 6 times now. And so those experiences to serve have dwindled down to several 100,000 as opposed to the millions that were in World War II or in Vietnam or in any of the other activities, which is causing us to actually form what is not necessarily a great thing, which is the warrior class, right? What we're looking for, we want to be America's Army, not the Army's Army or the Air Force's Army. We want to be America's Army, which means we have to get out and tell our Army story all over the country. We got to reconnect with the American people in terms of people that know a service member, right? That have actually seen or spent time with someone in our great Army. So that sounds, the 83% sounds good until you get down to now we got a few 100,000 that are even qualified to serve, right? So we've got a problem in our nation. A couple of them as it relates to service to the nation. 2 biggest ones are obesity and addiction. This, to me, this is only Funk's opinion, but these are national security issues that we've got to address as a nation. Our youth today needs to have different outlets, different ability to get into the physical nature of what the war, think about what war is going to be in 2030. It's already an incredibly physically intense, mentally challenging operation. And now you take on the increased speeds, the increased distances, the inability to hide on the battlefield. This is going to cause us to be an incredibly intense experience where we're going to have to build a deep mental resiliency, incredible physical endurance. We're going to have young men and women who are ready for those kinds of hardships. And it's not going to matter on what piece of the battlefield you're at, because if you can be seen, you can be struck, which means that we're going to have to be able to move, aggregate, disaggregate. And you've heard some of those things in the doctrine realm that we're going down today. So what are we going to have to do? We have to change the condition. So we brought in the Army Combat Fitness Test to change the physical condition of the people in our organizations. And we've gone through a bunch of trials and tribulations, and now it's on a good path, and we've got to get out and get after it. It is going to require that kind of endurance on the battlefield of the future. It just truly is. So that, if you ask me what keeps me up at night, the group of Americans who are 17 to 28 right now that don't qualify to serve. And the 2 biggest problems, as I said, are obesity and addiction. So we have to address those issues from a national level. I think that what you're also seeing is over 50% of the youth today have never considered service to the nation as a path to the middle class, right? It used to be that was a pretty good option, right? The GI Bill, the Montgomery GI Bill, that changed the condition in our country in World War II, right? We went from an agrarian society to an industrial society through that kind of an educational process. The 9/11 GI Bill is an incredible benefit. Now it's got transferability. Once you've served a certain number of years, transfer to your spouse or your kids. That is an incredible opportunity. But because of the lack of exposure to knowing a soldier or knowing a recruiter or knowing someone of that nature, American people don't know about it. So what do we got to do? We got to change, right? We're in the cusp of changing how we recruit. We're actually changing how we message. We're on all kinds of different platforms and things like that because we have to be. This generation does not watch the commercials that we used to watch in the future, or that we used to watch in the past. They stream by them, right? 5 to 8 seconds. So our message got to be, we got to resonate. We got to be better. where I could use everyone's help is getting out and telling your Army story. That's really important. Just tell your story. Just tell what the Army has done for you. We all serve for different reasons. We join for a variety of different reasons. We mostly stay, and I use those little coin things they give me. I use them as ammunition in the information fight. I do. Because I ask you two questions. Why'd you join our great organization? Why do you want to continue to serve? What you get from a variety of reasons young men and women join, to get away from things, to get into things, to be adventure, school, money, whatever. They stay for about two primary reasons: the mission and the people. They do. And so those opportunities and how we all raise that up and tell that story of shared sacrifice, right? People like to do hard things. Now, we're the United States Army. Our job, do hard things. It is. And so that's what gets me excited and gets me up every morning, is being able to fight this fight. It is a fight. The chief has been very clear. He'll say a war for talent. I agree with him. We're competing with all kinds of great industry partners. There's a lot of opportunity in the country right now in terms of this workforce and what they do. I talk about Buc-ee's all the time, right? Buc-ee's in Texas is the world's largest. I don't even know what to describe it as, other than the largest convenience store in the world. But they pay, they pay above minimum wage. They have a management program. They have insurances, both dental and medical. They have a college repayment program. So that's just one example of the war we're in for talent. So if you want to ask me what the biggest problem, the biggest challenge facing our nation today is the propensity to serve. It's down at its lowest level.
I was really going to dig into that, because you're just so spot on. As I can think back to the educational benefits is a significant reason so many folks join the military over the years. And now, as you mentioned, Paul, Buc-ee's, but I can think of 12 companies that pay for college now and provide that benefit. And then the second part of what you mentioned, I think it's, and I've seen it more since getting out, we don't do a good job of telling the story in the Army. It's just not in our DNA. It's kind of get done with that tough mission, move on to the next mission, don't brag about what we did. But we've got to tell those stories and connect. I've been impressed with the number of initiatives and the agility of recruiting, how you've turned the esports and different. Can you go into some of those things you're doing, the initiatives that have just really seemed to make a huge difference?
Yeah, Kevin Vereen and his marketing brigade, run by a colonel named Steve Battle, have really changed the condition. And we're trying to get into those activities that excite this generation, right? Esports is a massive program out there that we weren't in 5 years ago. But now we have trailers that go over and we're in competition. We actually have an esports team. And on the other side of this, we have a CrossFit team. The 8th strongest woman in the world is in the United States Army. She is an incredibly impressive athlete. And her last name is Bergholzer. She's a staff sergeant. She's incredible. And we have a CrossFit team that competes on the national and international level all over the country. And when we go to these high schools and we show them these athletes, they're just incredible. We have the opportunity. We've got the great Army marksmanship unit, right, that competes at the Olympic and international all the time, and we have Olympians. We have the world-class athlete program, but we also have some really innovative thought leaders. These esports kids, because what happens? When they're up at night, right? That's where all this competition, that the youth of America today is on there with their thumbs. Well, these esports kids come up and tell their Army story, and they get more leads. We were just down last weekend at Memorial Day weekend here in Miami, and Maria Gervais led our team down in with Steve Battle in the marketing brigade. And we brought all elements of there. Somehow we got thanks to the great 3rd Infantry Division, we got an M1 tank down there on the beach in Miami. Not sure how that happened, but it got down there. And you know what? That and the Bradley were rock stars. people don't know the incredible amount of technical skills it takes to win the wars of America, right? They don't understand it. So we got to show it to them. So we're doing that. And it's so exciting to see. I'm so impressed with what Kevin's done and Frank Muth before him in terms of turning the tide and getting into those things that excite the youth of today.
How about also, I know there's a challenge of where the recruiting pool is and where and then how do we get the diversity that we need?
Right.
So the Army represents our nation and it makes us stronger. How do you tackle those?
Great question. You know, the diversity is the strength of our Army, and it really is. I mean, and what's neat about it is when our teams come together, they form, and nobody cares what ethnicity or what gender you are or anything like that. So when you're hurt on the battlefield, they just care you're going to come get them, right? That's the way we are. We take care of each other. What's really cool about that, we are overrepresented in the South and the East, and the population has gone, and migrated. About 70 million people over the last couple of decades have gone to the West and Northwest, and we need to reposition ourselves or grow in terms of assets for exposure to that generation that's moved out in those areas. So we have to look at that from a strategic point of view and say, are we positioned correctly? Are we in the right spots? Do we need to migrate some programs, close them down? I'm not necessarily for closing them down. I'm more for generating new and actually getting out into the communities where we're underrepresented.
Another, there's a stereotype I think certainly affects recruiting, and you still see it on commercials of the drill sergeant screaming, could you? I just found it absolutely tremendous what TRADOC has done to change that, and an example would be the "Follow Me" at Benny. Could you talk about that? Because that to me is just such a fundamental change.
I'd love to.
And
so what I thought as we came into this, what I noticed was I felt like the recruiters were, those silver-tongued devils out there talking you into it, right? Hey, you're going to love this. You, come on over here. Yeah, we're going to give you 3 hots and a cot. We're going to give you all the educational benefits you want in the world. And
condominium.
We're going to give you condominiums on the beach. We're in all the golden areas and all those things. And then what would happen is somehow at 2:00 in the morning, because everything happens at 2:00 in the morning, you would show up on a bus to one of our 4 ATCs, and a raving lunatic would meet you. And he or she would cause you to have all kinds of internal problems and things like that. And right there, we were breaking trust. These kids are all volunteers. They're different. So we were breaking trust with them right there. And then we were wondering why they weren't telling us about the problems they were having. And in some cases, they were taking, they were seriously harming themselves. And in some unfortunate incidents, they were taking their lives. So we had to change that condition. So led by Fort Benning, actually, and you mentioned it, we put an end to the shark attack. And that was not without controversy, right? So the drill sergeants were not all of them, but a majority of them were a little concerned that they weren't going to be able to, give the physical presence they wanted to give and establish dominance and those kinds of things. And so we just said, hey, that's not the way we want to bring people into our organization. That's not how we want to start. And from that came inspirational ideas led by then Dave Hodney, who commands the mighty 4th Infantry Division now. Dave Hodney and his crew looked at it and started saying, okay, how do we reestablish dominance? And it's pretty simple. First of all, everybody's terrified of the drill sergeant anyway. It's the hat, right? So they come in there, and before there was this raving lunatic would be hollering, screaming, yelling at you at the bus. Now he or she walks on that bus and says 2 words: follow me. And when you think about that, you begin right there to change the condition. This generation doesn't play team sports. 80% of the kids after age 13 don't play any team sports. So we were talking team. They were looking at us like we were crazy. They didn't know what that meant. So we start forming those teams right there. And out at Fort Leonard Wood, led by someone in the room here, Donna Martin, we actually went to a program called Into the Breach. And if you think about what we do with our combat engineers, right? They get in there and most dangerous job on the battlefield, right? They're in there trying to mess with all these things while they're getting shot at and all these things. And we started to establish that kind of a rapport of follow me. And then and it's had a remarkable impact. Frankly, our kids are learning better. The soldier we're putting out there through our one station unit programs and through basic combat training, those kids are more confident, they're more competent, and they are more invested in staying with us. And that's what we want them to do. It costs a lot of money to train a soldier through basic combat training and AIT. And the less amount of we have to train, the more money we have to do other training in other places that we need, right? So it was counterintuitive. We had to attack the attrition model that we had through basic training at one point, and that's where we brought in the holistic health and fitness program led by CIMT, right? So we had to attack that piece too, because for a little known fact, just on the active side, we were bringing in at one point somewhere around 70,000 folks to get 50,000 to actually stay and make it through basic training and into AIT and into the first unit of assignment and through there. That was just not a good model. I mean, that was almost 40% was attrited out of the Army before they even got a chance to excel, right? And who knows if those are computer warriors of tomorrow that we actually need. So we had to look at this completely different. So what did we do? I told you that most of these folks don't do any kind of physical activity after their age of about 13. What does that mean? Well, it means their bone density isn't right. We're not good at nutrition in the nation. I told you we got an obesity problem, right? We're working on tools that make us more resilient, to make us, those things like grit and determination and those things and so it's and we're attacking the spiritual part of this thing, not necessarily from a religious point of view, but what is that inner thing that gets you over those obstacles, gets you through those barriers and allows you to achieve? And not only that, we're actually addressing sleep. We've introduced yoga and mindfulness into basic combat training. So we're trying to adapt. We're trying to grow and learn and take the feedback we're getting from this generation and what we never want to step away from is our great Army values and our great Army program that says you're going to be competent. Why do we train? To build confidence in ourselves, our weapons, our doctrine, and our leaders, right? That's why we do those things. So we're never going to step away from those things. What we want to do is make those things much richer experiences through not in fear and intimidation, but through dedication and adaptivity.
That's great. Now, so we'll move on, but I need to put out, there's a rumor out there. One of the initiatives in recruiting is I see some superstars that, let's just say, are a little elderly out there. And there's no truth to the rumor, Pat. There's a 60 and over waiver now.
Although if you can pass the ACFT, you're in, baby.
Possibly, yeah. Sign up for another hitch.
That's right.
What's another 30? Come on.
That's right. Come on.
Anyway, so thanks. And I'll, again, open up. You have other questions in recruiting and stuff, feel free. But let's shift to a real challenge. As we look to the future, and things are changing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've been working on for quite some time in multi-domain operations. Yep. How do you get, it is tough as you're bringing in, educating 500,000.
Sure.
And how do you start in the schoolhouse from the time they're, either in AIT or the young lieutenant, getting that mindset, multi-domain? How are you tackling that and doctrine that's developing and not finalized yet?
Yeah.
And then also add in, as I mentioned earlier, the lessons we're seeing daily. How are you tackling this challenge of educating the right way for the future, not the past war?
Part of that, and Jim Rainey was actually the one that kind of really revolutionized that. But he thinks you ought to train at the task level you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's get good at that stuff. So we don't need a lot of lieutenants worrying about FM 3.0, right?
Yeah.
We want you to understand your platoon doctrine, right? Move, shoot, communicate, right? Be competent with your weapon systems. Let's build leaders of character. Let's actually do those things. Let's do the basics well. From there, you then begin to build, right? I think right now, with what's going on, for example, in the Ukraine, those are lessons we are observing. We have yet to learn those lessons. We say lessons learned a lot, but we're observing those lessons right now. We've got the entire call, the Center for Army Lessons Learned, over there to capture these observations so that we can come back, check our doctrine, make sure it's up to speed. And so I think the chief will make some announcements later on where we're going in terms of the doctrinal realm and how we're trying to forward think where we're got to be ready for 2030. I think that's an important piece. But everybody has a role to play in this, right? We exist for one reason. Mike Garrett and people I've known, mentors for a long time, have said we exist for really one reason: fight and win our nation's wars. You know, sometimes winning is defined by different people. We define that as taking care of ourselves, applying the tools of the trade, understanding the weapon systems, becoming experts in how we converge or disaggregate or whatever word you're using. How do we apply the resources the American people give us to achieve our objectives? That's what winning looks like. Everybody else can define it some other way, but that's what I think. The training and educating through our Army system, you learn two ways: significant emotional experience and repetition. We want repetition to be the key. So we put back a bunch more rigor back into our school systems. Those of you that remember the old right for life, right? So you used to get in there and write operations order at a time base and make sure you covered all the bases. We had to re-put that back in our systems, right? We were doing a lot more, we were teaching a lot of TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Those are for the last fight. So the new fight is we got to get back into the books, right? Reestablish what it means to be those professionals that learn and grow. So we had to get after that by putting more rigor back into our systems. And Jim led that effort completely through that's why we're ahead of where we were supposed to be. That's why the doctrine is growing as we speak. I think you'll see a new multi-domain operations manual probably this year. But like we said, let's learn the lessons. Somebody else is learning the hard way now. Let's learn those lessons. What you're seeing is a completely different. That's the juxtapose of the doctrine, right?
Yeah.
What our adversary over there in the Ukraine, what they believe and what we believe, and you're seeing the fundamental difference and why we're better than they are.
Seems like an incredible balancing act that you have.
It is.
With not throwing out the lessons of the past,
Right.
some of those that
That's
apply,
right.
and then also adding in what's happening and how do you turn that rapidly.
Correct.
And because you mentioned the basics. Well, the basics, yes, they're critical, but even the basics have changed.
Yes.
When we were young, we never had to worry about cyber.
Correct.
We never had to worry about space.
Right.
We never, things that are basics now. If you look at just how communications is different,
Exactly.
shoot is different, move is,
Yeah.
it might be a platform from another service gives you the target,
Right.
not from your. And so, how do you balance all of that in the schoolhouse and not overwhelming them, but not throwing out the past and being relevant? It seems like a tough balance.
Oh, but it's a fantastic opportunity to grow and learn. And what's neat about it is our combat training centers give us a significant advantage. We get to learn from those, and those are truly lessons learned out there. Once you've had to experience the great Op 4 and now their techniques and how they're applying space, how they're applying cyber, how they're applying all kinds of different things. How do you fight through where you're not going to have communications? How are you going to do that? How do you react to those kinds of drills? Which is why you have to fall back on your training, right? That's why we do a little thing in TRADOC every Monday morning, and we catch the hero of the week, right? And we've gotten people that go into burning buildings to rescue families. We got them that they're going to burning cars and pull people out. And this is a routine thing. It happens weekly that some hero across our formation has done something magnificent. invariably they say, when I ask them, so why did you do that? Almost invariably they say, because my training kicked in. So that's why, repetition matters. What we did with basic combat training and now, and in one station unit training, led by Gary Brito at the time, what we were able to do is extend basic combat training for OSIT for our armor and infantry to 22 weeks. Those kids that come out of there are not familiarized with things. They are qualified with things. And that makes all the difference in the world. It really does. So that's on the educational side and the training side. I think that the repetition and being able to give them the extra sets and reps so that when they come in, they're actually contributing members to the team, try to take some of the burden off the operational force by giving these kids competencies they didn't have before they came is a big challenge. But our drill sergeants and our instructors, they are equal to it. They're doing it magnificently.
It sounds, kind of easy, but boy, how complex do things to extend basic training, and that's not an easy thing.
No.
And but looking at the results, go ahead and ask questions. Alex will walk around while we're waiting for questions from the audience. I've got another one I want to throw out to you, and there's one back there, a couple. But just tell us some things that TRADOC does that most people don't know they do. Some things that TRADOC does that most people don't even know.
I
know because I can say that because
exactly.
in some of my TRADOC jobs, when I was CAC commander and different, I complained about something like IO, and I'm like, boy, it's a mess right now. And who's in charge of that? Oh, I am.
Yeah, exactly right.
You have this
I
huge
actually have
responsibility.
I actually have that problem almost every day.
Yeah,
I do that.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't know we had that. So,
so then I used to just call Rainey and blame him. And now I call Ted
He's
Martin.
holding it from me.
That's right. I'd say, why didn't you tell me we did that?
Yeah.
Well, here's one that for our business leaders. We have a program called Program for Your Success. It used to be called Program for Youth Success, but now it's for your success. So it's really a great program. And what it does is, we sign an agreement, an MOA, that you guarantee a young man or woman the ability to have two interviews with your company when they decide it is that they want to transition to be soldiers for life. And it's a recruiting tool. We used to make them pick the companies as they were signing up, right? So here's a 19-year-old kid. Yeah, I want to work for Leidos. Yeah, I want to be an astrophysicist or some doggone thing like that. Now it's about when they enter the Soldier for Life period, when they start doing the transition assistance program, that's when they get to pick now. And the companies are interviewing them. And what we're finding is they're looking now regionally about where they want to live or where they want to come back to or where they want to stay perhaps. And they're looking for the opportunities in that. That is a way, if you want a kid that's dedicated, that understands showing up on time, takes good direction, actually acts in a disciplined fashion, and as smart and in most cases are literally lifelong learners. If you want somebody like that to work in your company, this program's for you. If you don't, well, then you'll go find some people that want to work for you. That's the way I feel about that. Frankly, our soldiers are our best and biggest asset, and our nation owes them a debt of gratitude and an opportunity to transition into civilian life as well. So that program, incredible program, most people don't know it. TRADOC now is in charge of the Soldier for Life program, which to me, and I've seen a bunch of the guys that are wearing their Soldier for Life badge today, and I thank you for that. We have to be able to people to recognize us out in the communities. When 9/11 happened, we closed our gates and made them look like the barriers that they are, and the American people stepped away. And now we have it's not a divide, it's just they don't know to ask even though 70% of our young men and women live off of our installations and things, that barrier really intimidates some folks. And frankly, I want to get these open. I want to get the American people and our folks back together, reestablish, know as soldiers. So those Soldier for Life badges are really good for people to recognize, so you can tell your Army story. Most people don't know we do that too.
Mhm.
You know, so now we take citizens, we take young men and women. I mean, most of you have been parents, right? Think about that. We take young men and women, and when we get them at 10 weeks and mom and dad come, there is nothing but tears and how in the world did you do that, right? And I just point right at those drill sergeants and say, my God, they're good. So we turn citizens into soldiers, and then we turn soldiers into leaders, and then we turn leaders into soldiers for life. And that's what gives us the asymmetric advantage that we need in the world today.
That's great. Okay.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. We do appreciate it. My name is Ross Duckworth. I'm retired from the United States Marine Corps. Maybe you've heard of us. I don't know.
I have to recruit the size of you every year.
The United States Army has very recently adopted 2 new small caliber weapons, an individual weapon, a rifle, and a squad automatic weapon, a light to medium machine gun. And both of these are in a new caliber, 6.8 millimeter. And this happened all of 6 weeks ago. So now we've gone from 2 calibers to 3, which is a logistical challenge. Has there been any discussion to, at some point in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, scaling it back to 2 calibers, for example, by converting the 240 machine gun from 7.62 to 6.8 and make it a little easier logistically? And before you answer my question, if you're willing to answer my question, you might want to address this program quickly, since it's only 6 weeks old, and there may be people here, especially international visitors, who are not spun up on it. And thank you so much.
Yeah. I leave all the hard logistical questions to Ed Daly, the AMC commander. I don't know. I don't know if we're thinking about scaling back to a 6.8 versus a 7.62. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that our new systems give us the range we're going to need in the future. I do know that we got to have some standoff. We were inside of the range. If you think about where we were in terms of the M4 versus the AK-47, we were outgunned. So we got to have different range. We got to reach out and touch somebody, and then we got to be able to do those things that the nation needs us to do to stop somebody trying to harm us by having that kind of punching power to get through those kinds of obstacles. That's all I know about that, frankly. And Ed is, I'm sure, working on the logistical problem of that ammunition problem right now.
Hello, sir. I'm Cadet Moore from West Point. You were talking about just like the fitness standards, and I know, like, coming from West Point, when the fitness standards of the ACFD did change, there was a stigma like throughout the Corps that, you know, like it was too easy now. But I know that it's not fair for us to judge the fitness test being at West Point, or like just being an officer in general, to the rest of the Army. So like, how do we bridge that gap between what the officers and like specifically West Point cadets or like people just graduating from West Point think about fitness tests, and like, how do we bridge that gap between like having more of a overall understanding of the fitness requirements for the rest of the Army?
Great question. Frankly, on the Army Combat Fitness Test, you can't roll up your sleeves and go to work if you're wringing your hands. I'll look, once everybody's taken it, once everybody's gotten through it, then let's measure where we're at, right? But we've got a lot of drama about this, which we don't necessarily need, right? Let's just figure it out. And we're the Army, okay? Our job, do hard things. It is. So let's get after that. And I told you what the problem in the nation is, right? The Army's always led in that kind of challenge, right? Whether it be social change, you name it, the Army's led. So we got to lead our nation to be more fit. We got to demonstrate this. So I'm very encouraged by where we're going on that test. You know, hey, I'm 60 years old. You think I wanted to change the PT test? But no, they said we're going to do it. So guess what I did? I got working at it, right? Let's go get it. All right. So Believe it or not, I have a guy that works for me. He's a civilian. He's standing in this room. He's right over there, that gray-haired dude right there. He's 64 years old. Okay, when he came to us, he'd been an IBM or an executive in the for 30 some odd years. So he, not exactly the bastion of fitness. He couldn't do a push-up, could not do a pull-up, didn't know what a leg tuck or a plank even was. So he took the initial test, and the first time he didn't pass the 2-mile run by 23 seconds. He's taken it 3 times since then. The other day he got a 597 out of 600. All right, we can do this. Let's get it done. All right, you're welcome.
Hi, Matt Baynard, Defense Daily. I was wondering, I believe the plan was around the summer this time to have the MDO concept become MDO Doctrine.
Yep.
I was wondering if there's any update you can provide on when we might see that, and just your overall perspective about getting that out now as Doctrine, as the Army pushes ahead with fielding new modernization systems and
Great question. And I thought I probably wasn't clear enough about it. I think you're going to see us. We're going to take them in. We put the entire Center for Army Lessons Learned and the Doctrine team over in that part of the world, so we could make sure we capture and check what we're writing as doctrine, make sure that that's what it's going to look like on the battlefield of today, and is it going to be sufficient for tomorrow? But I think you'll see that kind of doctrine come out in the next sometime before the end of the calendar year.
Sir, good morning. Joel Lidos. Question for you. You talked about physical inactivity, obesity, mental illness associated with our youth.
Yes.
Is there anything either the DoD or Army is doing to get left of bang for the not just the recruits, but those in middle school and high school?
Great question.
And sir, I come to you as a standing committee member from the National Physical Activity Plan. We now have a military sector that will be announced in 2 weeks. So hopefully this not be televised.
Nice.
So a 12 person team is looking to provide solutions to the DoD through interagency support to you all.
That's a great question. Frankly, I'm working on all kinds of innovative ways to get after that. One of the things I'm trying to do, and we're launching on with through MWR and IMCOM and Doug Gabram and his great team, and along with Ed Daly, is we're going to the USA sporting world. Okay, when we're going to ask them to help us. And frankly, the NFL has come on board already, and they're designing programs to help us for the younger generation, to get them ready and move them up. Right, we got to attack this in middle school. That's where, by the way, that's where kids are making life-altering decisions now. Used to be high school, now it's middle school. So we got to get after this. In Funk's opinion, where we're making the best progress is in our junior ROTC programs. Frankly, PE has been phased out of most of our high schools in the nation. Where we're getting PE credits is in junior ROTC these days. We got to get after that. Okay, so I think that's a very good. That's a citizenship program, junior ROTC. That's what it is. And it's only in the Army programs. We have 1,700 programs across the country. We're not exactly aligned where we need to be. We need to shift some of our opportunity, but that's only 5% of the high schools in the nation. I think the expansion of that program of junior ROTC itself, whether all the different services, even the Marines, where we can do that is going to be really good. I absolutely think it's going to be good. I would like to see us start teaching civics in our high schools again, right? But that's just Funk's opinion. The Army, where the Army's getting benefit and getting after this, is in junior ROTC. Where we're trying to go is on our camps, posts, and stations. We want to improve the youth services programs. Okay, let's take it. If 83% of the kids that are serving today are in military installations or have exposed to military, let's make those programs pretty good. Let's be the gateways to the Army in some places. I like that opportunity, and doing it through sport is not a bad option.
I think the time goes so fast. The last question.
Sir, hi, George Nicholson with the Global Special Operations Forces Foundation. I've been in several meetings with General Berger, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and his deputy, General Smith. And they talked about one of our highest priorities is manpower. And they said 3 areas. How do we acquire people? How do we train people? And how do we retain people? They said one of the biggest problems is retention. But in terms of acquiring, they're saying, we're looking at a new model. Why do we take somebody that's got a PhD in cyber, bring them in as a first lieutenant and go through the whole thing? We can bring doctors in as captains. Is the Army looking at the same thing? But along the same lines with General Berger, you know, the firestorm he's run into right now with Force 2030 is he says the future is not going to be like the past. And he quotes, you're familiar with the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. With Caesar, after Varius came back with his head on a pike of having 3 of his legions decimated. The future is not going to be like the past. In terms of what you're doing at TRADOC, lessons learned are important, but what do you think of the initiatives that General Berger is doing right now?
I could barely keep up with General McConville, so keeping up with General Berger, but I do agree with him. Acquiring the talent we're going to need in the future is going to take a different approach. I think that the Army doesn't have a retention program. Once we get them in, they love the Army. And frankly, Gary will tell you, we're really growing in the retention world. We're running at about 102% retention right now. And that's where we need to be because it's cheaper to retain than it is to recruit new. But where we're going in the future, I think convergence matters. I think converging the effects of our weapon systems at distance and range and speed that are unheard of today is going to be the future. That's where we got to do. Applying the tools of the trade and understanding the depth of the battlefield, how much extended range cannon, you name it, how much that's going to change the geometry of what we do. What will never change is people live on land, and we have to be the dominant land force. That's a must. Without doubt, people live on land. And so changing the condition of what happens there matters. And so we have to always orient ourselves from that aspect. Being the dominant land force matters.
Well, Paul, thanks so much. What a great rundown. And we're awful glad you're in this position during the challenging times. And it's making a huge difference, and we'll continue to. And thanks for joining us. It goes so fast. I know you probably had a bunch more questions, and next time we'll have to make this like a 2-hour event and just get to work late.
Better hurry
about it, and no doubt. But thanks for joining us. Really appreciate great questions, great discussion. Some upcoming events. 8 June, there's a noon report. Jim Dubik on leadership lessons from George Washington. Oh, I'll tell you, you want to catch that one. That's fantastic. We have a new event, a warfighter event down at Bragg, 27, 28 July. First time down there, focused on the soldier and soldier systems. Very excited about that, down at Fort Bragg. Come join us there, 27, 28 July. And then, of course, we're even more excited after last year, on and off again. There's no question the annual meeting's happening 10 to 13 October. Bigger than ever, better than ever. So excited to see you there. And then a whole bunch of other things going on. You go to ausa.org and check out the website, and you'll see just all kinds of, from podcasts to webinars, really ensuring folks are understanding everything going on and getting the word out to help our Army during these critical times. So thanks for joining us. How about a round of applause to General Funk? Thank you, him. Tremendous job. And have a great Army Day.